The topic I chose to do for my capstone project was political polarization. Political polarization is politics being so largely divided in today's society. This is largely due to the system of political parties, most importantly our two-party system, Democrats versus Republicans. Polarization is actually rooted in the foundation of our nation's creation. The Anti-Federalists and the Federalists were trying to come to a compromise over how our Constitution should really outline what our nation's all about. Now, political polarization as we know it today has been around since the 70s. This was right around the time the Civil Rights Movement had come to a close. So the minorities were divided from society quite literally, and then proceeded to do so once they had the rights. So they had the right to vote, then they were voting against the people that had wronged them in the past. This means the two sides were pushing apart from each other, the two major demographics in our country. And recent polarization has exponentially grown. Matter of fact, since 1994 to now, it has almost tripled from any other time in our history of our nation. One of the main reasons for this is social media. You can log on to Twitter or Instagram and you'll be berated with tweets or posts that have to do with politics all the time. Most of the time, they are the radical sides of each thing. So the Republicans are slandering Joe Biden or vice versa. And it can influence the people that use these. The audience for social media is, in fact, younger generations, and they will soon be voters, if not already voters. So this influence can have detrimental consequences, especially if it's wrong information, which a lot of it is factually incorrect information, a lot of false news. It's also just ingrained into our daily lives. Our society is pushed more towards technology. So TVs, magazines, all of these newspapers, any media you get your hands on is largely rooted in politics. So it is pushing us apart. The Republicans are trying to sway you to their side, and the Democrats are doing that as well. And anything you pick up, a book, it's largely ingrained with anything. So some ways that this political divide is caused, besides the aforementioned racial and the media, is people, due to these reasons, blindly choose to follow a party. They're not basing around factual information or things they know about the party. They are going off what they saw, for example, on a billboard. They take this information, surface value, and apply it to their whole thinking. They align themselves with a party, not really the candidate. They don't necessarily care about the candidate as much as they are going to vote for this specific party. And this blind choosing has caused them to ignore policies. The other side may have policies that they strongly agree with, but they will refuse to acknowledge them or accept them simply because that is not their party. Their party does not have that view. And that is a main reason we are pushing apart from each other, is just this blind ignorance. Also, politicians themselves are making the other side the enemy. They attack more than propose their policies or agree with certain policies. A Republican politician has a view on a policy, and the Democratic opposition will automatically have the opposite view. Even if they may agree, their party has to have the opposite view. So the broader significance of this topic is that it just discourages many people from getting involved in our government. They don't want to get caught up in the drama. They are sick of this hostility that is presented. They don't want to deal with the tensions of my party is against your party. They don't logically come to conclusions. A large thing that has come from this is like crime. Crime has gone up because of politically motivated attacks or racially biased attacks because of the media. the two demographics that are mainly in conflict are white Americans and black Americans. And they are the two that frequently vote against each other. And I think another main center for tensions was the 2020 election. The Donald Trump versus Joe Biden was extremely just unorganized and separate for the voters, at least. They were against each other, and no one acknowledges the sides. If you go to a Trump supporter and talk about anything Joe Biden has done, they will likely slander him and refuse to acknowledge that his presidency has any correct basis. There's no good to it. So opinions differing from one's own are shunned in this way. So my personal takeaway from this is that this topic is rarely shared. We are so used to these norms of you are wrong and I am right because of my political affiliation that no one wants to talk about it. It is not taught in schools that we should unite, or if we have different views, we should properly talk over them. We should maybe come to some sort of concession about it, that we should put our differences aside and agree that on these, but agree to disagree on other things. They just agree blatantly without any attempt to come to a common grounds. It's almost as if people fear the other side. Their side threatens their own view, and they do not want to have to deal with this. So immediately distance yourself from the side, and that's your solution. And it's just not a feasible thing. I think it is necessary to share and educate on this topic for these reasons, that people must be more educated so they can disagree politically while also not hating the other side. It's more of an issue than I thought, and that is a main thing I learned, which I didn't expect to, by doing research on this topic. People, they view the other side as evil, rather than disagreeing with that side and voting for their candidate. They want to make the other side look horrible. It's almost like a marketing campaign. It's almost like a business tactic. They want to have their side win, the other side lose, and they will go to any means to do so. And I think this is tearing our nation apart, and that is why political polarization is something, while not really talked about, it's something that needs to change and greatly affects society in our country.